The majority of projects that you see in the open source ecosystem follow what's called semantic versioning. And there's a great website for that, semver.org, senver.org, that details how it works. When you see a version number, usually there's three parts to it. There's x.y.z. When that Z level, that's at the very bottom there, that's patches and security fixes. Those are guaranteed to always be backwards compatible. There's never any changes that have happened other than fixing those bugs or those security issues. The next number, the Y, the one that's in the middle, that's for minor releases. Those are usually indicative of new features that have been introduced. They don't change any existing functionality, but they allow you to adopt new features in a way that as you go forward, you can continue using those. The X is supposed to be updated only when there's backward compatibility break. And backward compatibility break means that there's something in the code that has changed that a consumer, when they try and use it, if they used it with the previous signature or the previous usage examples, it will no longer work the same, or it just won't work at all. In some cases, those will be removals. So if you remove something from the API, a signature change is an example of that. If the signature changes in a way that is incompatible with the way it was previously, so new arguments, changing the order of arguments, changing the return value, that sort of thing. So those are all things that are indicative of that, of those changes. And so typically most projects will only bump that major version when there's something that is going to change how somebody consumes the project. So that's usually how that goes. Now, it's not always true. And, we've seen, it's funny with the PHP project, they do a fairly good job about keeping backwards compatibility, but most minor releases, at least from a library author's perspective, that's me, they introduce deprecations. In production, you can turn deprecation warnings off and they don't affect your application. For a library developer, we have to keep those on because we need to adapt our code early so that once we get to that major version, it's not going to be a problem for us to support. What we have seen is, even with our customers, they quite often have the deprecation warnings on, and so they go to run their application and it breaks because now there's a warning that is being emitted that breaks the application in some way. And so that becomes an issue for a lot of the companies that go out there. And occasionally you will also see, feature additions that change the API that in a way that wasn't intended, but it did anyway. So you'll see those. We do every year for Zend, we actually do a blog post coming up on the new minor release to walk you through what are the new things, what was deprecated, if it's a major release, what was removed, to help you understand that sort of thing. But it requires you as a consumer to be proactive in going out there and getting that information. And that's, I think, where we see the bigger problem with a lot of people is, a lot of people just aren't in tune with that. They're just using the language or they're using the operating system and they don't know what all the changes are. They're not interested. They just want to consume it. And then when they update, whoa, wait, everything broke. What? And so it becomes a problem. But like Tim mentioned earlier, a lot of our customers actually come to us early. They say, hey, we know that this version of PHP we're on is going end of life this year, and could we get some help migrating before then? And that's, as far as I'm concerned, that's one of the ideal customers because they're engaged. And it's really nice to see those. But for those others who get caught unawares, we also have the LTS offering so that you can stay on that version and not have to worry about those upgrades yet.